Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second Squaring the Circle debate of 2021. The motion to be debated tonight is International Higher Education Mobility will return to normal levels by September 2021. My name is Mandy Mock, and I'm the founder and CEO of Applied HE. Applied HE is the new kid on the block as an international higher education service provider that specializes in evaluation, branding, marketing, and professional networking solutions. The Squaring the Circle debate is presided over by our legendary debate master, Dr. Kevin Downing, who is the Secretary to Council and Court and Director of the Institutional Research Office of the City University of Hong Kong. Thank you very much, and thanks also to our speakers from the UK, Australia, France, and South Africa. Kevin will provide you with the full introduction of the speakers shortly. We're also pleased to note that Kevin has published a new book about rankings, the impact of higher education ranking systems on universities. You can get your 20% discount code if you order it through Applied HE Future, the world's first professional networking platform for higher education. Just go to future.appliedhe.com to order. And if you have a few minutes today after the debate, please help us to complete the Applied HE Academic Happiness Survey. Let us know how satisfied you are with your life as an academic. To make it more convenient for you, you can find the link in the chat. So please spare us a few minutes after this event and fill out the survey. We will be very grateful for your time. And don't worry, it is completely anonymous, so you can say anything you want. Now, without further ado, allow me to hand over to Kevin.
Thank you very much, Mandy. Welcome to everyone from around the world to this debate. It's a great pleasure and honor to be chairing the debate once again. And it's lovely to see amongst the names of participants, lots of old and not so old friends. So without further ado, I'm gonna kind of get moving and run through how this operates. So the motion to be debated is that international higher education mobility will return to normal levels by September 2021. And we're debating this in May 2021. Speaking for the motion, the two proposers, distinguished proposers are Professor Dr. Moritz van Rooyen, Chief Executive Academic and Group Rector for Global University Systems in the United Kingdom. Moritz is probably no stranger to many of you, given his previous senior roles in higher education. He is his very able and distinguished team member is Mr. Hung Truong, Head of International Student Recruitment at the University of Newcastle in Australia. University is close to my own heart, as Winnie Ely, one of my colleagues at CityU, was Pro-Vice Chancellor there for some time. So welcome to you both. And then from France, we have an old friend of Applied HE and of many of us on the panel and many of the participants, Mademoiselle, I'm going to say, Karen Perronin, Director of the Executive Masters at the École des Ponts Paris-Tech in France. And so welcome, Karen. And Karen, very able and distinguished team member, is Professor Tawana Coupe, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Pretoria, very prestigious university in South Africa. Not one I've been to, but I have been to University of Johannesburg when Prof. Aaron Rensburg was the VC there. So welcome to Karen and welcome to Tawana. The way this goes is I will begin by taking a vote of all participants very shortly, a poll, where you will say whether you support the motion or you oppose the motion. That's, if you like, the pre-test for the experimenters amongst you. And I will then share the results with everyone. Then Moritz will speak first. He will have 5 minutes. And after 4 minutes, I'll ring the dreaded bell like this. It'll be a bit louder than that, just to warn them that they have 1 minute to go. And then following Moritz, Karen will have her say. Same rules apply, 5 minutes, no visual aids. I'll ring the bell after 4 minutes. Then Hung will go to you. You will have your say with a dreaded bell looming after 4 minutes. And last but not least, we will go to Tawana. Tawana, same rules apply. After 4 minutes, I will ring the bell. Immediately after our 4 panelists have spoken, I will then open this up to all participants. And I would ask participants to say, first of all, who they are, where they're speaking from, and to try and make their point, say whether they're speaking for or against the motion, and try and make their point within 10 sentences. And my maths is pretty good, so I'll be counting. That's so that as many people as possible can speak. There is half a chance, if the participants are not vociferous enough, that I might return for 1 minute summaries from each of the panelists at the end. But if the debate is really lively, which I hope it will be, then I won't be going back to our panelists, and you can give them a well-earned rest. So without prolonging this any further, I'm about to launch the poll. You will see now in front of you, you have the poll. You have 1 minute to vote. Do you agree with the motion that international higher education mobility will return to normal levels by September 2021, or do you disagree? Wow. At the moment, I can tell you, with 20 seconds gone, most people are disagreeing. So get your vote in now, which means the proposers have an uphill battle right now. Oh, it's swinging a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. Keep the votes coming in, guys. There's 32 of you and only 25 have voted. 78%. We've got polls in UK tomorrow, and 78% is probably not achievable as a turnout level, but I'd expect a bit more here. 27 now, 84% have voted. 3 seconds, 2, 1. Okay, I'm ending the polling now. I'm going to share it with you. You will see that 74% of the participants disagree with the motion. We might like to call them the pessimists amongst the participants, and we have 7 or 26% optimistic about higher education mobility returning to normal. So I'm going to stop sharing the results now. We need to remember that result, 74 and 26, because we'll take another vote at the end and see if our erudite panelists have managed to change your mind one way or another. Okay, so I'm stopping sharing the results. I'm going to go to our first speaker without further ado. Moritz, speaking for the motion, your 5 minutes starts now.
Thank you so much, Kevin. So I've been asked to read the tea leaves, and that's a silly thing to do. Nobody can predict the future. My argument is a different one, and that is we should make the future. We should actually make sure that the mobility somehow returns to past levels. That's really what we are this debate about. As Kevin said, it's optimist versus pessimist, but it's actually also about Dr. Sunshine and Dr. Smiley versus Dr. Gloom and Dr. Doom. Really, optimists live longer. So let's join the optimistic camp and say, what can we do to make the future happen? Make sure that we actually got the mobility back to the levels where they were before. Students are desperate to travel again. It's not just a nice thing. This is essential for their careers, for their future life. And it's our responsibility that somehow we need to find ways to make this happen. Rather than being defeatist and just say, well, bad luck, we have COVID, let's all sit back and be depressed. We should not be depressed. We should not have 74% depressed people on this survey. We should actually do something. And the value of this debate is that we have an opportunity here to start exchanging ideas, exchange experiences and so on with what we have been able to do in order to get students mobile again. Virtual mobility. How can we convert virtual mobility then into physical mobility? How can we focus on corridor countries? How can we bring in students first to corridor countries and then bring them to our own country? There are a lot of things. I'm sure you're more creative than I am. You're more experienced than I am. When we talk with each other, we will find ways of achieving what is so essential to achieve and turn a negative into a positive and move from virtual to physical mobility again. Let's share ideas. Let's share initiatives. My passionate plea to everyone is please make sure that somehow we make that mobility happen again. It is for the sake of our students. It is for the sake of our students that we start thinking positively, right? One simple example I share with you is that experience shows that if students in an early stage engage, and I say early stage as in the first semester, the first 2 semesters, engage in virtual mobility, we have a taster. They gain an appetite for working with students on the other side of the world. This is something we definitely should be doing already. We should be looking at the future. We should not be looking at the past, and we should not be sitting back and saying, well, COVID is beyond our control. We cannot do anything about it. Of course, we can do something about it. We are all very intelligent, very creative people, and we all probably have a little piece of the solution by the work we do. We actually see little things happening in our own institution, at other institutions, which we really, at this debate, should share with each other and start telling each other, let's think positively. Let's make sure that the future actually happens the way we know the future has to happen. And let's make sure that we're able to restore that mobility, which has been so hindered over the last one and a half year, right? We cannot allow this situation to continue as it is now. So I hope that all the Dr. Gloom and Dr. Doom on this debate actually will have a good look in the mirror and say, am I really that depressed? Am I really convinced that this cannot be done? I would like you all to turn into Dr. Sunshine and Dr. Smiley, and not just for yourself and your fact that you live longer, but for the sake of our students. We really need to help our students to get the mobility levels back to where they were before. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thank you, Maurice. I think from now on, I'm going to call you Dr. Sunshine. So we had Moritz there turning negatives into positives passionately and bringing some sunshine into our COVID affected lives. Thank you, Moritz. Without further ado, I'm going to quickly shoot all the way across to France and welcome Karen. Karen, your 5 minutes speaking against the motion begins now.
Thank you. And thank you, Maurice, for opening that way, because that's the easy way. You know, we don't need to be pessimist or depressed to say that it's not possible that the mobility will be back to normal in September. And basically what we call, or what we say about normal, about the origin of the mobility, who will be the students in September that's going to go abroad, leaving their country to a different country. So the numbers of students, of course, is the basic, and that's potentially that could be back to normal. But the programs they are seeking, the country of origin and the host country, and the format of the programs will be for sure not back to normal. So I would like to just give a few numbers about, and here I have been focusing on seeking degree students, right? which is, I think, the easiest part, or at least we have fixed numbers about that. And then based on the latest data I found from our Campus France report, so that's Campus France is the organization representing the French higher education abroad. In 2018, there was 5.6 million seeking degree student mobility. And we can say that in 2020, that has been, of course, hugely impacted, for example, in Australia, but I think Hong will be able to tell about that later on, with a drop of more than 60%, and the US, and even in France, we have 25% less student arrival last year. However, the impact or the consequences of COVID will further, because then we can see that there is still evolution in different countries. So if we're thinking of the pandemic itself, we can see what is happening in India at the moment. And we can see as well what happened in Europe, but in other countries, and others as well, countries that have not really been impacted yet. So that is as well very important to take that in consideration, not thinking that we will have less students moving, but how those students will move and where are they going to go, and which kind of student will be as well moving abroad. If I say, from my experience back to France, we have we had a huge impact and a huge dropout with Lebanon, for example, not only because of the COVID or sanitary crisis, but as well because of the political and economic and financial crisis. And we can see that even if those students want to come, they don't have the possibility, the financial capacity to move. So that is as well a huge impact. And then if we are looking at the usual host country, like Australia, but as well we can see Hong Kong is a huge, hosting a lot of international students. Then they have closed their frontiers, their border for more than a year. And how is going to happen? Even the students there have not been to school for more than a year. It's only online everywhere, right? So it's really here, I'm not pointing the negative aspect. I'm pointing about, yes, how are we going, in fact, to create or to define our new normal, right? And how are we going to reinvent higher education and mobility within the world, and maybe the balance or the rules of the game will change. And for sure, countries that have been very strong at one moment to hold students might not be in the next 2 years, and students will still move in a different way or to different countries. I would like as well to put one very important aspect. We were talking, we are reinvention, all the universities have been obliged to reinvent themselves with online courses. And of course, there is positive and a lot of negative impact on online. But as well, that has a negative impact on the mobility of students. I mean, I'm seeing my international students taking advantage of that and saying, for example, that they rather stay home and seeking the degree and the quality of the education, but staying from their home country. And that is as well very disturbing, because we're not used to that. So to conclude, yes, we need to define a new normal, and then it's not about September. It's about in the next maybe 2, 3, 4, and 5 years, and what all of us, all the universities and countries wants to do with the mobility and internationalization of the students for the next few years. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Karen. That was a very in-depth introspection. And if I can say so, you were being in the tradition of a lot of French literature like Camus, you were being positively negative. You know, so
Well,
I think
I cannot change too much, you know. I have been
No.
trying, but
no, that's very good. Just before I come to Hung, I just make the point you mentioned Hong Kong. I'm stuck in UK at the moment. I've booked a flight for 2nd of June to get me back because I'm told that flights are going to be reopening. But one of the issues that some of the other speakers and participants might want to talk about is they've had 2 charter flights back already, which are massively oversubscribed, so I couldn't get on them. And when I get back, even though I will have had 2 vaccinations and be 14 days past my second one, I will have to do 21 days. So the last flight was full of students returning to Hong Kong. Actually, Hong Kong students that have been studying in the UK, they have to do 21 days quarantine in a 150 square foot room with windows that don't open, which for someone like me would be my worst nightmare, but I'm going to have to go through it when June comes. Okay, thank you very much, Moritz and Karen. Let's now move to Moritz's teammate on behalf of the proposition. Hung, your 5 minutes begins now.
Thank you, Kevin. And I just want to counter a couple of points that Karen mentioned. First of all, affordability. So when the pandemic hit, I mean, lots of people were predicting financial crisis, doom and gloom, etc. But what countries have been doing around the world is injecting a lot of liquidity into the markets around the world. So what we're seeing is quite the opposite. We're seeing stock markets or equity valuation, it's at record level. We're seeing property around the world is also at a record valuation level. So the people who can afford to travel overseas for mobility can still afford that. There isn't any change in affordability. And in terms of numbers of traffic that's going to different destinations, yes, of course, Australia has taken a hit because our borders have been closed for over a year. But we've seen a shift to the UK and to other destinations that have never closed their borders. So I'll just give you a number. So in 2020, the UK had an increase of 17% non-EU students versus 2019. So that's quite interesting. And what we're seeing is demand is still there. It's just students are doing online and waiting for the chance for borders to resume or for travel to resume so that they can start or continue their studies. We're also seeing a demand in transnational education programs, CNE, in students' home countries. Again, they are doing this is because they are just waiting for the opportunity when travel resumes so that they can come. In terms of travel, last week the USA announced that it will resume arrivals of international students who hold visas to the US. So that has started, and then there may be other measures of bringing new students to the US. So then, how would that affect the traffic, the student traffic? We've also seen travel bubbles. There's one that's between Australia and New Zealand. I believe there's another one that's going to be later this month between Hong Kong and Singapore. There's going to be travel within Europe in the coming months, perhaps maybe even transatlantic travel. So with these safe corridors or travel bubbles, it will ease travels for students to go to the destinations that they want to study. And another factor is vaccines. So if we look at the US, nearly half of the population there has been vaccinated. majority or more than 50% of the people in the UK have been vaccinated. Israel, where the majority of the population have been vaccinated, and they're seeing cases coming down to almost zero. So that when vaccination really kicks in, it would make it a lot safer for students to travel and also for schools to open. And last point that I want to make is if travel bubbles continue to happen and if vaccines continue at the rate that they are, I believe that in September or later this year, the volume will be actually above normal, because what you have is you will have a pent-up demand. You have current students who've been stuck for over a year, and you also have new students who have been taking online for over a year. So you have the double cohorts who's going to flood these destinations in the coming September. And to be honest, we haven't seen demand decline that much for Australia. It's just when travel can resume, and we believe that it's going to be later of this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Hung. Again, a very thoughtful summary of what's going on. And the thing that struck me most about that was students are young people, generally younger than us, and they're exceptionally resilient and, of course, less susceptible to the most severe ravages of the COVID-19 disease. So I think you make some very good points there. Last but not least, it's my great pleasure to move to Tawana in South Africa. Welcome, Tawana, and your 5 minutes speaking against the motion begins now.
Thank you. I'm not a pessimist, but I'm going to speak against the motion. I'm a product of an international education, having gone to Norway to do my PhD. So I would like international student mobility to continue. But I'm also a realist and a pragmatist. So here I go. 6 reasons. We all know that we are 4 months away from September. Even with all of the things our opponents have said, that it would not be, it's not practically possible to return to the pre-COVID levels. Even if later on, as Juan considered, he said perhaps later in the year. So just the timetable does not fit returning to normal levels. You can say that is a technicist point. In relation to vaccinations, if we're really talking international, we must include the whole world, not just large markets like China, students moving from China to Australia, New Zealand, or to the UK or the US. There are parts of the continent that are part of the international called Africa, South America, India, and other parts of the global South. And here is the problem in relation to vaccination. European, North American, and European vaccine nationalism is causing a slowdown in vaccination rollouts in our parts of the world. And that means without being vaccinated, we simply won't be allowed into Europe or the United States or Australia or even China or Japan. So that will reduce the volume of international students going to where they usually did, like I did going to study in Oslo. So there is that practical reality also that vaccination rollout globally, not in specific regions of the world, is not what it should be at this point in time. So that will have a huge dent on returning to normal levels. And I think also we should think about that even before COVID, we should have been talking about increasing internationalization and student mobility. The numbers that were there were good, but not so good. So actually we're losing some degree of momentum there. Then of course, if you are thinking about the global South as part of the international, people have been negatively affected financially, losing jobs and all of that. So putting up the financial resources to go and study abroad will not be what it should be. People will need 24 months, 48 months when their economies recover to be able to put up finances to go up north. My second point is the following, is that the old model of internationalization was a model that had reached its sell-by date and was rightly disrupted by COVID-19. So, and what was this model? This model was extractive from the global South to the global North. It was not actually global movement, student mobility. And I think COVID rightly struck a nail into that model. We need a new model. We need to reinvent international student mobility, reimagine global international higher education so that it is driven by the values of co-equal and beneficial and genuine global mobility, not one-way flows, what we call the brain drain. So I think we should celebrate this moment when COVID killed the old model and gave birth to a new model. So the new model is going to be very fascinating. It's going to be decommodified because elements of international student mobility were driven by stock market calculations and also calculations of budgets of European and North American universities. We must decommodify education and return it to a spirit of internationalism that is about education as a driver of social mobility, a driver of international understanding, a reducer of conflict, global inequality, and genuine sharing. And here, I love what happened also with COVID. COVID pushed us harder to go online, but I don't believe in 100% online education. I believe in blended or hybrid or high flex models. So what's the new international model, which is absolutely exciting, is going to look like this. There will be, universities will now actually, in a sense, get into agreements where students remain in their own regions, but can take courses elsewhere. But they can travel part of the time, but not all of the time. And second, some of the lessons, some of the classes can be taken online through hybrid models. And there will be larger flows of northern students from China to Africa, South America, from North America to Africa, because it was very leaky at the moment. There were young undergraduates from America and Europe doing year abroad programs. So it's going to be a vibrant new model, which actually creates globalized international education and real exchange. So I've got 1 minute. Then the last point I want to make is the following. This will be the new unusual, not the new normal, the new unusual. We are also then, as an international academic community, need to campaign for a global academic student visa, which does not preclude others and is not financially driven and does not latch onto vaccine nationalism.
Thank you very much, Tuana. Very, very passionate exposition of the case against. I'm particularly struck by the new unusual rather than the new normal. First time I've heard that term, so we're going to attribute that to you. And some of your ideas, I think, are very, very exciting. And actually, I think before I open up to participants, it's worth making the point that the very fact that we're having this discussion today from 4 corners of the world demonstrates the value of international cooperation and promotes and demotes, if you like, the notion of vaccine nationalism, and recognizes that this is a global problem and only a global solution. None of us are better until we're all better in relation to this, and the world will not return to something better than normal. Okay, that's fantastic. First of all, I just want to say thank you to all the panelists for really well constructed and clearly well thought through arguments. Very interestingly, with very different perspectives, another value of internationalization and international cooperation. Very, very different perspectives that open all of our eyes a little wider. I'm now, without further ado, going to go to the participants. So participants, can I ask that you raise your hands, because I'm going to be looking, I've got 2 hands raised at the moment. I'm going to take them in order. Please say who you are, whether you're speaking for or against, and then summarize your argument in around 10 sentences. So I'm going to go first to Maizio Balane, who I'm allowing to talk now, and hopefully we can see them on screen. Maizio.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Thanks for the invitation, and this is a very interesting and lively debate, and I'm inclined to the position which is articulated by Prof. Tawana, because I'm operating from the University of Botswana. COVID is real, and we are trying to do e-learning, but there are all sorts of challenges, and I believe that the challenges are not going to be uniform. They're not going to be uniform, maybe when we compare the North with the South. And I'll be very much wanting to hear more from the speakers in this comparison.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much, Mazio, for those opening remarks from participants. I'm just to remind people, please raise your hands now. I'm going to go to Saparto. Saparto, I've now given you permission to talk.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
You need to,
okay.
Yeah, you need to unmute. That's better.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Maurits, for your opening remark. At least your quotes that we cannot predict the future, and we have to make the future. Good. But the problem is that we are not able, and we should not bring the past into the future. In my opinion, COVID here has been able to purify the civilizations in terms of education system, for example. Because of COVID, our educators are aware about the role of technology. And when, let's say, there will be no COVID at all in September, I am sure that at least there will be 60% of the academic activity will be done online. So therefore, in my chat there, I mentioned that instead of talking about how to put the past into the future, to get the past into the future, to get the normal in quotation mark of the past into the future, I think it's better for us to think, to make use our energy and resources, how to optimize the role of technology, the digital technology for our education in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Saparto. I think you make a very good point. It sort of hinges very much on the notion that was brought up by the panelists about the move towards blended models of learning. I guess maybe I'm a dinosaur, but well, I'm definitely a dinosaur, but I actually think that you cannot match the friendships that form face to face. You know, that many of the people I'm speaking to on the screen here are personal friends that I've met face to face in the past at conferences and elsewhere. And there's something special and to be valued about that it might be more difficult to do online. Anyway, Carol, thank you very much. I'm now coming to you and allowing you to talk. If you could unmute. This is Carol Cooper. Carol, where are you speaking from?
Hi, I'm actually French and I'm a lecturer at the University of Sheffield, but I'm speaking from Scotland, so we're very complicated. So thank you very much. Very, very interesting. And I think everybody made a really interesting point. But I have to say the one that I found most exciting was Tawana in South Africa, because I love this idea of the new unusual. I wanted to make a point around the fact that international mobility for students is not something that happens overnight. And that any new unusual, the reason I'm talking against is not because I'm being negative. I'm actually a positive realist, let's put it that way, a bit like Karen, really. And I think these things will take time because there's massive challenges that are going to be confronting us when it comes to international mobility of students. Yes, we might move towards a blended learning, but even this is not something we can just take for granted. We need to prepare, we need to anticipate. higher education is not good in times of uncertainty because we need time to put things into place. That's why I don't believe for 1 minute that the new unusual will happen by September 2021. I do believe that if we put our words into practice, talk is cheap and it's about doing for me rather than just, having wishful thinking that yes, things will go back to normal. If we put our words into practice and work together and collaborate, then yes, we will have a very positive, optimistic, new, unusual, and we do need things to change because there was a massive imbalance in the current type of model that we have. That's me.
Thank you. That's very, very interesting. And actually, I think it once again it makes a point about how there are multiple perspectives, an ethnographic term, in this debate. I can pick up the French. I'm a great enthusiast for the existentialist French literature, and I can see how part of that forms the philosophy that underpins both what you're saying and what Karen is saying. And likewise, I can see what underpins the perspective of Hung from Australia, who's actually looking at it from an exceptionally pragmatic point of view as well, in terms of, where are the markets, where are they going to be, who are the givers and takers in relation to the new approach. And of course, Tawana and Moritz, who also have very distinct viewpoints here. So I just wonder, there are no hands up at the moment from attendees. So come on, attendees, follow your leaders, Matseo, Carol, and Suparto. In the meantime, I just want to throw a question out, perhaps to get some hands coming up. What do people think about vaccine passports for students and student mobility? Because there's a lot of resistance to vaccine passports here in the UK. They see it as an infringement of people's personal freedom. But do people think that they might have an impact on student mobility? And I'll ask that to panelists and attendees, because no attendees have put their hands up yet. They're all very shy. What do any of the panelists think about the notion of Karen? Do unmute.
Yeah, yes, I do. Unmute. Well, French, we are always against new rules and looking for the reason and why we should do what the government asks us to do, right? But on the other hand, we need to be a bit objective on what is happening and the fact that we already need vaccine to go in other countries. And I like, how do you say, the yellow fever? Is that green? Fièvre jaune, if you are saying if we go to Africa, in some countries in Africa and others. So it's as well what we're saying, the new usual. And then going against will only postpone the evolution and the change. And then we need to move forward. So if people have better option, and I think as well, it's a question of agreement between countries, then they need to, it's the time to speak, I think. So maybe the audience or my colleagues. Yeah.
Thank you, Karen. Anyone else from the panelists like to come in on this?
Yeah, yes, I would like to come in.
Yes, Tawana.
Yeah, so I just wanted to be clear also that the visa I was suggesting was not actually a vaccine visa. So I could be an academic global visa. However, in relation to that, I think that internationalism should include the value of solidarity. So if I'm taking in students from country X or continent Y, I would like to assist in them getting a vaccine if my national authorities insist that they must be vaccinated to come into the country. Because what I can't do is to want the student as a student, but not to associate myself with other difficulties that they face, especially on a global pandemic like this. Because I want certain values to be retained to internationalism, if you like, solidarity, empathy, social justice is one of them, some of them.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, many of you will know that's the very reason why I decided not to work in the UK and to work overseas as an academic, because I think that people who study and learn together develop lifelong friendships, which actually leads to far better understanding of everyone's perspectives, social justice that you mentioned, and so on. So, Moritz, I can tell because you've unmuted that you want to also tackle this.
Yeah, this might sound weird, Kevin, but actually, in this respect, I fully agree with Tawana. Universities definitely need to try to find ways and are actively finding ways of making campuses more accessible again through vaccination programs, through testing, etc. And my own university in Germany is very active. I mean, we're really preparing for students to come back. Now, why? It's not because I disagree with Suparto, absolutely not. I think technology is a great opportunity. And, if we want to say anything positive about the COVID crisis, it is the fact that it has made people much more open-minded when it comes to using technology. And that's a great achievement. And also a better understanding of we need to act with speed rather than higher education can be a little bit slow sometimes as they come back in 2 or 3 years and we'll ever see where we are then and so on. No, guys, this is urgent. So we need to take actions now. And technology is clearly part of the equation, but it is not that technology suddenly says, well, you don't need to travel anymore. Because if you say that, you actually do not understand what learning is about, if I can be blunt. Learning, yes, happens in the classroom, yes, happens in front of a screen. Whether that classroom is virtual or physical is only part of the equation. Kevin puts his finger on it. Learning is much more than that. It's a full experience of interaction with students, and having that interaction in another country is of immense value. So I'm a big fan of integrating more digital learning in our experience. It makes actually, I think, the appetite for travel bigger rather than smaller. And that's what I said in my introduction. Let's use this in a positive way. And I think it's, sorry, I don't want to kind of take an opportunity for another 5-minute contribution, but there's a lot of what is being said, which is really valuable. And I hope somehow we do not lose that because, very, very strong points are made disregarding where you sit on the debate.
Thank you, Moritz. I think I'm going to go to Nishit in a moment, then I'll come to Hung to make sure all panelists have a chance. But I think you make a very important point about learning and knowledge. I just sort of steal something from John Biggs, who says that in the classroom, you can be taught knowledge about facts, which he calls declarative knowledge. You can be taught knowledge about procedures, which is procedural knowledge. And you could be taught knowledge about context, contextual knowledge. But it's only when you practice all three of those in the real world that you have functioning knowledge. And functioning knowledge must be, and not just knowledge, functioning wisdom must be what all of us aspire to. And we should, help our students aspire to those sorts of ideals. Thank you very much. I'm really enjoying this debate. It's fascinating. I'm learning a lot. I'm going to go to Nishit Jain. Nishit, thank you for putting your hand up. Please go ahead.
Hi, Kevin, and great to see my friend Karan on the panel and other colleagues. I was just curious, and quite intrigued by the new unusual what Professor Tawana made, because my sense is that there has been often a resistance of the international professors in terms of mobility, because on one side the school wants them to go and attend 10 campuses or 10 programs around the world, and professors do get tired. I mean, you have to respect that. So with the new unusual, I think now that everybody is used to that, I guess two advantages I see coming of it is the fact that there may be lesser mobility of the same professor, but a wider net. So those professors who we could not get on campus to interact with our students, now that with technology, people have started to accept. So maybe that's one of the ways to get the international, at least the learning bit in place. And the second, I was just thinking aloud the fact that students are always all types. I mean, not everybody has liquid money, to spend on very expensive courses. So as a consequence, what may happen is the fact that they may come for shorter duration overseas to experience the context, learning, and the environment and friendly atmosphere, while a bulk of the learning may happen through the online space. So those were the two things which I feel that will enable the internationalization flag kept up and high and fly even better, because universities and schools will be innovative to this aspect.
Yes, Nishad, I think you make a very good point. I mean, the notion of I was talking about just now, I don't see why students in higher education should not learn about facts using the online mode. Even procedures can be taught using the online mode. What is missing for me is the contextual knowledge. We send students out on placement and overseas exchanges to obtain that contextual knowledge and turn the other two types of knowledge into a more functioning knowledge and wisdom. So I think you make some very good points. Hung, I want to come to you because all the other panelists have had a chance to say something, and I want to come back down to you. I always say down because it's Australia. That's ridiculous, really. Neither of us are up nor down, but I would travel south to Australia. Hung, go ahead.
I can't help but bring the commercial aspect to this. Many students do go abroad, study overseas, are on student loans from home, and the only way that they're going to service or finance the education is by getting part-time jobs or employment while they're studying. The only way to do that is to do it in a more developed country where the pay is better, so that they can finance the education, and hopefully that they'll get a degree from abroad, which will further their career. And then there's also quite a few students who do it for migration purposes, where they come, they study, and then they stay. Some of them actually go into programs that they don't even like, but because it provides an easier way to migration, and then they will sponsor their families over and settle them, etc. So I think there's also that commercial aspect to mobility that sometimes people forget, and quite a few students do it for that reason.
I think that you make a very good point. At the moment, that's what's happening with China, that many students in China are going overseas to study, and the diaspora, they're then coming back, bringing skills and different perspectives from other countries. And I don't think any country in the world has a monopoly on knowledge or wisdom. And wisdom is only achieved when everyone is listened to and everyone is learned from. Everyone has a lesson for everyone else. Carol, I see as a last chance, I see that you still have your hand up. Shall I just come to you again? Do you want to make another point, or is it just the system?
Sorry, I forgot to something I do all the time. I just put a little note around it was about the discussion around the vaccination.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I think at this stage, I think it's slightly optimistic to think that, for a number of reasons, vaccination and vaccination passports are going to be a solution. It's just a very highly mutable virus, and it's going to be difficult to keep up with it at this stage. But apologies.
Yeah, Tawana, I'm going to give you the last word, but we have to make it fairly short. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm going to be short. So I was wondering whether, and some are already using it now. We don't talk about internationalization only, and people now say and global engagement. So perhaps what we should do is what I call the old model of student traveling for degree seeking, as my partner said in the opposition, degree seeking students and students who go for shorter term and perhaps a hybrid mix of online and physical traveling is global engagement. Because I think there's actually a varied modes of internationalization, but it's been lumped under one concept, which captures people who leave their country to study in another country for a degree, like I did for my PhD. But there is many other modes that we can develop now that access through technology can be done. And that I would call global engagement. So every student should participate in some global engagement or another, even if it is not degree seeking.
Thank you. I kind of took that from your new unusual term as one of the things that was covered by that umbrella. So I think it's a very good point. Okay, guys, without further ado, I'm going to go to the post-test, if you like, the second poll, to see if you are really open-minded, bright academics that have listened to all the arguments and changed your mind, or whether you have your feet stuck in the clay and you're going to vote exactly the same way, irrespective of what anyone else says. So if you remember, 26% agreed with the motion, 74% disagreed with polling 1. I'm now relaunching the polling. You have 1 minute from now. You should all be able to see it now. Very interesting, much more even this time. Wow. Only 19 out of 38 of you have voted, so you're obviously cogitating and thinking about this. 23 of you so far. You have 30 seconds left. Come on, guys. Make your vote count. Keep going. You have 15 seconds left. Only 26 out of 38 have voted. This is like an auction, you know, where everyone bids at the end. You have 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop. Okay. Well, that's very interesting. I will now share the results with you. 41% now agree with the motion, with only 59% disagreeing. So I would say that whilst the opposition of Karen and Tawana, the two of you can claim victory, it is a somewhat Pyrrhic victory in that I think the movement made by Professor Sunshine and someone from the Sunshine part of the world has obviously persuaded many of you to change your mind. I think the most valuable thing about this for me is it demonstrates that academics can change their mind. And that's a lovely thing to see. I think changing your mind is one of the major tenets of wisdom. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to stop sharing the results. Before I say anything else, I just want to thank the 4 panelists for their wonderful expositions of their positions from multiple perspectives, which I always find very stimulating. I want to thank Carol Cooper, who's must be kind of conflicted in terms of what nationality she has, given that she's in Scotland and she's French, and there was something else there which I can't remember now because it got rather confusing. I want to thank Metsio Balani. I want to thank Nishit Jain, an old friend, and of course Suparto for their contributions to this discussion, and Applied HE, of course, for allowing this to happen. So without further ado, I'm now going to pass the baton back to Applied HE. Please stay online, and I'm sure Mandy and Peter will have some more to say. Thanks, guys. Great debate, really interesting. Mandy.
Kevin, thank you everyone for the very interesting discussion. I hope you've all enjoyed it. I'd like to express my deep appreciation to our wonderful speakers and moderator for the time and contribution, and also thank you, our participants, for joining us for this Squaring the Circle debate. This is the second debate of the year, and while this marks the end of this particular webinar, we have many more events lined up in the months to come. The next Squaring the Circle debate is on the 7th of July, 2021, with the topic, Higher Education Degrees Are Devalued by Increasing Access and Increasing Numbers of Graduates. Very controversial indeed, so make sure you attend. As you can see, we have a debate scheduled every other month on the first Wednesday of the month at 8 p.m. Singapore time, which is noon GMT. So please mark your calendars. Our next webinar is one of our regular Fireside Chat series. This is scheduled for the 9th of June 2021 at the usual 8 p.m. time slot and organized in partnership with Education Insights UK. The second Fireside Chat of 2021 will pose the question, does international higher education contribute to the world's sustainable development agenda? Whenever there's not a Squaring the Circle debate, we will have a Fireside Chat to keep you engaged. For this year, we will have a webinar every first Wednesday of the month with Fireside Chat and Squaring the Circle debate alternating every other month all the way to December of 2021. Always on Wednesday evening, always at 8 p.m. Singapore time. So do keep your monthly first Wednesday nights free. Aside from webinars, Applied HE does a lot of other things as well. In January of this year, we launched the world's first composite world university ranking called the Rankometer. This is a new ranking that is based on one single and transparent benchmark. We all know that there has been a huge proliferation of university rankings in recent years. Students, parents, and employers simply don't know where to look for a reliable comparison of universities. With the Rankometer, we have solved that problem by providing a transparent and reliable measure of university quality. To be precise, the Rankometer is a composite ranking of the world's 5 most influential world university rankings. If you haven't already, you can check the results at appliedhe.com/Rankometer. January was a busy month for us. In addition to launching the Rankometer, we also launched Future, the world's first professional networking platform for the higher education sector. Future aims to connect everyone, from high school to professional career to lifelong learning for the 3 E's, education, employment, and everything in between. Future is designed for higher education leaders who want to stay informed about the latest developments, events, and webinars in the sector. It also allows you to set up pages about topics that are of interest and relevance to you. You can discuss, comment, post news and events, and much more. You can even use Future as a teaching aid. Just watch our demos that are posted on Future websites. In phase 2, we will bring in more students, alumni, and employers for internships, research collaboration, and lifelong learning. So in short, eventually, Future will include the entire higher education and career experience from leaving high school to retirement. So please sign up for Future and encourage your friends and peers to sign up too. It's free and it is the only networking platform you'll ever need. Extra, I've been mentioning this at every webinar that we've organized, and that is we can promote your institution's news to your global target audience. So please send us your extraordinary news and press releases, or you can upload it yourself onto Future. It's yet another complimentary service from Applied HE, so do take advantage of it. And I'm pleased to say Applied HE now has 3 rating systems. They serve as benchmarks and marketing tools to your institution's quest for global branding and excellence. We have the all-round job-ready rating system to evaluate the quality of teaching and learning and employability of your graduates. An English-ready rating to evaluate the quality of English language instruction in non-English speaking countries. It is also a great marketing tool for the recruitment of international students. And the online ready rating, which helps your institution benchmark and promote its online programs and courses. So do reach out to us if you would like to learn more about how these tools can translate into affordable strategies for global branding and marketing for your institution. A gentle reminder again, please complete the Applied HE Academic Happiness Survey after this debate. You can find the link in the chat here. The survey is completely anonymous. We don't ask for any of your contact details, so feel free to let off steam, speak your mind, whatever, at appliedhe.org/happy. I also mentioned Kevin's new book on rankings at the start of this webinar. You can order it now at a 20% discount if you order it through Applied HE Future, the world's first professional networking platform for the higher education sector. That's future.appliedhe.com. And if you want to ask Kevin any questions about his book, please stay on a bit for our social get-together after this webinar. And last but not least, as you know, we are the new kid on the block, we still are, and we're very grateful for all the support that we can get, which is why I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge all our very supportive webinar partners. A big thank you for the valuable support given to Applied HE. Right, thanks very much, everyone. However, the evening is not over yet, so please do not leave the chat room. We want you to experience a networking atmosphere that is as creative and as close as we can get to a physical networking environment. We're going to open the room now so you can all see each other, say hi, introduce yourself. You can also leave your name and contact in the chat box with a message of your intention. This is as much as we can do for now in the name of networking. So please turn on your cameras. Right, over to you now, Peter, to get our social event started. You're muted.
Peter, you're muted, Peter. I'm glad it's not just me.
Yeah, it happens to everyone. I'm trying to switch on the music. Wait, let's try that. Yes, thank you very much, everyone. Yeah, so I've tried to put all of you on camera, and I think you figured it out. So go ahead and just unmute yourself and say where you're calling from. Maybe if you want to ask any questions or say anything.
Any questions about Kevin's book? Feel free to ask him now.
Put me on the spot again.
I want a copy, an autograph one.
Well, if anyone orders one, I'm happy to write a message in the front, because I know most of you anyway. So that's pretty good. So, Carol, what was the other country you mentioned? You came from France. You're in Scotland, which I think is a terrible choice, frankly, being an Englishman. There you go. What was the other country that was in there somewhere?
It was actually England, because I worked at the University of Sheffield. So you'll be pleased that I've got a foot.
Okay, then.
I need 3 feet, but I've got a foot in 2 different countries. And...
In that case, you're forgiven. Nice to see you, Ramaswamy. Where are you calling from? You're muted. Ramesh, you're muted. Ramesh Kumar, you're muted. Can you unmute? That's better. Now we can hear you.
Oh, it's clear? Yeah.
Yeah.
I am from Muscat, National University of Science and Technology. I've been teaching professor in mechanical engineering.
Oh, lovely. I love Muscat. Lovely place.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Suparto, you're calling from Indonesia, aren't you?
Yes, I am Suparto from University Muhammadiyah Malang, Indonesia. Actually, we have been working with QS since 2012. So I know Mandy from 2012.
Yeah, and I recognize you. We've had several conversations at various conferences, I think. And just above you on my screen, hi Pinky, where are you calling from? Somewhere within the continent of Africa, no doubt. You're muted, Pinky.
I'm trying to unmute. Absolutely. Lovely seeing you again, Kevin. It's been quite a while. I'm in South Africa, in Johannesburg.
Oh, you're in Joburg. Actually, Iron Rensburg, your old VC, sent me a copy of his book with a lovely message inside just recently, and I'm reciprocating at the moment.
You're sending him a copy of your book?
Yeah, so we've kind of swapped. It saves money.
Yeah.
Nice to see you. Mahmoud, where are you calling from?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kevin. Yeah, I'm same like Miss Carol. I'm from Bangladesh, but I'm working in Malaysia, in Australian University, Curtin University, Malaysia.
That's my second home, Malaysia.
I like to thank you for give opportunity, but I'd like to echo with you that I'm also like to believe that there's no alternative of face-to-face or classroom experience. We can use the technology. I have a little bit different. We can use, as Mr. Suparto said, we can use the technology, but from my experience of all this technology, we have been practicing quite long, we can deliver certificate, but the knowledge or learning that has to be in the real face-to-face experience.
Yeah,
I'm a mechanical engineering senior lecturer here. I'm teaching mechanical engineering. So more on, yeah, hands-on. And
it's lovely. It's lovely to hear that because sometimes I think it's an old person thing, you know, and it's nice to hear someone young and fresh-faced.
Yeah, I do agree with that. There's no alternative.
Talat,
yeah,
lovely to see you. Would you like to unmute and say hi and say where you're from?
Hi, everybody. I'm Talat from Pakistan, from the University of Lahore. I'm working in public health department as an assistant professor.
Fantastic. Are you affected by the growth of the pandemic in India? Because you're not too far away, are you?
I'm from Pakistan.
Yes, but are you affected by the COVID-19 growth in India? Has that?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Lots of cases.
Yeah, must be very worrying. I think many European countries went through the same thing a little earlier, but because of the large numbers of people in India, it's very difficult, and in Pakistan as well. Lahore is very busy, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to speak to you. I'm gonna.
Thank you very much.
I'm gonna hand back to Peter and Mandy now, and I'm gonna say goodbye to everyone. Please stay in touch. Really happy to see you guys. Stay well, because we've all got to meet again at a conference very, very soon, I hope.
In Rio, and we're going to recognize each other, because then we never know what
we need
what is happening online.
Yeah, we need to do that, but we need to have a new unusual conference. I like that.
Exactly. It was a pleasure to see all of you as well. Bye, Kevin.
I have missed two people that have come on video now. That's Jelly May and Nicole. So maybe Mandy and Peter, you can pick up on that, because I have to go for another meeting. So thank you, guys. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.
Okay. Bye, Kevin. Bye, Kevin.
Bye.
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 Take care.
Bye. Bye. Hello.
Yeah.
I will have to go as well. I know that for most of you, it's the evening, right? So that's time to have a drink. And thank you, Mandy, for inviting me, and Peter, and thank you, everyone. So, and
thank you.
So for me, it's coffee time, and I have to go to my next meeting. I see you soon, hopefully in Rio. Bye.
Yeah.
Okay. I think with your permission, we'll just leave it here. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us, and we hope that you'll join us for the next edition next month, which is the Fireside Chat. And in the meantime, we'll be sending you lots of messages to your inbox. And if you have questions or want to get in touch with us personally, you know our contacts. So surely we'll be in touch soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you. Bye. Allah Hafiz.
Right.
Bye.